In this video, I'll show you how to use the Model in Place tool to create a simple reception desk design. This reception desk will feature a toe kick, a 42-inch high transaction counter, and a drop-down area for ADA accessibility. You'll start the process by creating a floor plan and adding 2 elevations and a section view. You'll also create a 3D view of the space, and you should have your floor plan view and your 3D view open. So I'll click back on the second floor plan, and then I'm going to click Tile Views, and it will open up all the views that I have on the same page. So here I can see as I'm modeling within this space, it will appear in the 3D view. So we will create the reception desk in this area. To begin the process, go to Architecture and Component and Model in Place. The reception desk is considered casework, so I'll select that and hit OK. And then we can name this model reception desk. The Create tab will open, and we'll be using the extrusion form. Once I select extrusion, the draw tools will come up. Now you can use any of these draw tools to create your reception desk, so it doesn't have to be a straight line design. You can also add curves. So the first thing that we're going to add is a toe kick. In the constraints area is where you will enter the height information for the toe kick. So we're going to start at 0, which is the floor level, and the height of our toe kick is going to be 4 inches. And then hit apply. I'm going to use the line tool to create the toe kick. Since I'm adding a transaction counter on the top of this, I'm going to move this in. And my toe kick is going to be set back 3 inches. You can also use the offset tool to offset lines 3 inches. So I'm going to use Pick Lines and then offset 3 inches to offset these 2 lines. After you draw one component of the desk, you can hit the check mark. And it's saying that my lines are not closed, so I'm going to go through and clean that up. And I'll hit continue. So I need to close this loop right here. Now watch my 3D view as I hit the check mark. There you can see that my toe kick is built. Once you click the check mark, a Finish Model option will appear. You don't want to finish the model because we want all of this to be grouped together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating another extrusion. So I'm going to go to Create and Extrusion. And what I'm trying to do now is build the wall that's going to support the 30-inch high work surface. So I'll click Extrusion. Now our finished height is, like I said, 30 inches high for the worktop. So, but that we want to add that worktop separate. Usually the worktop is going to be about 1.5 inches. So actually we're going to start with our extrusion start at 4 inches, which is the height at the top of the toe kick. And then we add from the floor level up. So the 0 up, what is the worktop, or what is the wall for the worktop? So from the floor level, what is our height of the wall? And so if the finished height of the desk is 30 inches and that countertop is 1.5 inches, then we need to subtract 1.5 inches from 30 inches. So our finished height from 0 would be 28.5 inches. And then hit apply. Now we want our toe kick to extend out from our wall to extend out from the toe kick. So we're going to come about 1 inch out from the toe kick area. So type in 1 inch. And then we can use the offset tool or the Pick Lines tool to offset the lines that are already there. I'm going to click Pick Lines. I'm going to offset 1 inch. And we want the interior part of our wall to be even with the toe kick. So at this point, I would just use the line tool. Make sure you change the offset to 0 inches. After you draw the second extrusion, then you can hit the check mark, and you can see the top part of the desk is now created. The next step is to add a finished end panel on the end of the desk here. So we're going to click on Create, Extrusion. The base height is going to be in line with the bottom of the toe kick, so we'll keep that at 0. And then our finished height is going to be 28.5. So the work surface is going to sit over this end panel. I'm going to use the line tool. And we'll just make this 24 inches deep and about 1.5 inches wide. Make sure you close your loop and then hit the check mark. You can see it appear on the end there. So that will hide the file that we'll add later. Okay, so now it's time to add the work surface that will sit on top of this wall here. Click Create and Extrusion. And the work surface is going to sit over the front of this desk about 1 inch. Our finished height is going to be at 30 inches. The extrusion start will be at the top of the wall. So that's 28.5 inches. And that will give us, there's a difference of 1.5 inches, so that will give us 1.5 inches worktop. So I'll start by drawing that line 1 inch out. And then I'm going to use the pick line tool. Set my offset at 1 inch. Join these lines together. Now from this point in, the interior part of the worktop is going to be 24 inches. So from this point, we're entering in 2 feet. And then I'll hit my check mark. You want to sketch out your design before you start to draw in Revit and have all your measurements figured out. Revit is not the greatest tool for figuring out the design as you're drawing it, because you have to have all the measurements already calculated in order to create the design. But one thing that you have to remember is in this back area right here is that the receptionist needs at least 42 inches for chair space. So make sure you have that measurement and all your other measurements calculated before you start to draw in Revit. So now we're going to add the transaction top area. So I'm going to go to Create and Extrusion. Now the top of the transaction top before with the finish counter on it is 42 inches. Now we're going to add a counter on top of that 42 inches, so we need to deduct that 1.5 inch counter. So we're going to say that the top is 40.5 inches. And then the extrusion start will be at the top of this desk now, which is 30 inches. And we're going to offset this transaction top about 1 inch. We'll come in. And then we can use the pick line tool. Make sure our offset is at 1 inch. And then we want to build that wall so that it's 4 inches thick. So we're going to pick lines again, and we're going to change our offset to 4 inches. So at this point, we need to close that loop and to delete our reference line. Go to offset 0 inches there. Now we need to create an area here that's for ADA accessibility. So I'm going to select this line right here and drag it over, and I'm going to select this guide bar here, and I want to make sure that this is ADA accessible area needs to be 3 feet. And then I'll just draw a line from here to here. Then I'll hit my check mark. And here we have the transaction counter built on top of the desk. So now we need to create the transaction counter top. So the top will be at 42 inches. And it will start at 40.5 inches. So that's an 1.5 inch counter. Oops, now you see I had that other area still selected, so I need to undo that. And then make sure that you've selected out of this area. So again, we need to go to Create Extrusion, and I'll put those settings in again. 42 inches high. And extrusion start is at 40.5 inches. Usually a transaction counter is about 11 inches deep, so about the depth of a piece of paper. So we're going to come from the middle of this transaction counter wall, and I'll go 5.5 inches out. And then I'm going to come back and do the same thing on this side, so a total of 11 inches. And from that point, I'll just draw my lines down. I'll do 5.5 down here. And then I'll hit my check mark. So here you see we have a basic reception desk drawn. If you need to make any changes to dimensions, you can use these arrows, or you can use your temporary dimensions. Make sure before you make any changes that you have your temporary dimensions set to snap to faces instead of center lines. So go to Manage, Additional Settings, Annotations, Temporary Dimensions, and make sure it says faces and openings. That will make it a little bit easier for you to make any changes. Make sure you have enough space to walk through here. So that needs to be, since this is leading into a work area, you probably want to make that 42 inches. And then behind the reception desk, make sure you have 42 inches also for chair space. You can also add filing units on either side of this desk. You'll need something to support this side of the desk since you don't have an end panel, so you'll need to add a filing unit there. But before we do that, before you add those separate components, you'll want to select Finish Model. Now all of this will be grouped together when you select it, but you can go into Edit in Place, and then you can select the individual elements if you need to. To add any type of filing, you can go to Architecture, in Component, Place Component, Load Family, go to Casework, Base Cabinets, And you'll see that there are several options there for you to choose from. And you remember, if the height is not quite right, you can make any of those changes within editing this type of file cabinet. So if you needed this cabinet to be an inch shorter, you could load the file cabinet into place and then click Edit Type and change the height so it would fit underneath the desktop that you created. Usually for commercial spaces, we're just using the 4-drawer bin, or the 4 drawers base cabinet, and then, or the 2-bin base cabinet. You can also download filing cabinets from commercial furniture manufacturers. So I hope this video will help you get started on the creation of your own custom reception desk.